You're watching VinylicPumaGaming. It can be difficult to pick the right follower for your build or playstyle in Skyrim. There are just so many followers to choose from. After all, there are at least 8 different housecarls, and then there are companion followers, Dawnguard followers, mercenaries, and even followers associated with the Dark Brotherhood and College of Winterhold. Beyond that, there are certain followers that can't die, that have no level cap, or even some followers that can train you in specific skills provided you have the gold to pay them. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing what I think are the worst followers available to the player in Skyrim Remastered or Special Edition. However, before I start, I want to address a couple of disclaimers and explain why certain NPCs are on this particular list. For the most part, I am comparing followers to other followers in terms of raw stats when they achieve their maximum level cap. I've largely been able to do this thanks to a Google spreadsheet that can be found on the Elder Scrolls Wiki, and I will be leaving a link to that in the description if you're interested. This may also mean that a particular follower may not be entirely horrible, but they also aren't necessarily the best choice, and that there are much better options out there for you to use. So, without further ado, these are what I think are the top 7 worst male and female followers available to the player in Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Remastered, starting now. Number 7, Koznak. So Koznak is a Breton one-handed warrior follower with a maximum level of 30 that specializes in heavy armor, one-handed weapons, and block. He comes from Markarth and can be found in the Warrens or at the Silver Blood Inn. And to acquire Koznak as a follower, you can challenge him to a brawl, and if you win, he will join you. And it costs about 100 gold to start the brawl with him. Koznak has ultimately made this list because when compared to other followers that are acquired in a very similar way, he ultimately has inferior stats. You'll ultimately find that somebody like Uthgerd the Unbroken maxes out at the same level as Koznak, can be acquired much earlier than Koznak, and then when it comes to specialties at max level, Uthgerd the Unbroken just has a higher skill in one-handed weapons than Koznak does. You may also find that other level 30 followers like Carjo and Borgok the Steelheart not only have a better one-handed skill than Koznak, but they also tend to be better with heavy armor and block. Not to mention that Carjo in particular makes a better archer, and Borgok the Steelheart has a fairly high sneak skill. Koznak, on the other hand, is significantly less versatile and less proficient than these other 2 followers. The other problem is that you have to go to Markarth in order to recruit him, and while this isn't a problem if you're aware about the carriage that allows you to pay gold to go to places, beginning players may not get to Markarth until much later on in the game. Ultimately, I think there are just much better one-handed warriors that you can get as followers. While Koznak is certainly not as bad or as awful as some of the later followers on this list, you'll still find that he is lacking when compared to somebody like Uthgerd the Unbroken, Carjo, or Borgok the Steelheart. Number 6, Onmund. Poor Onmund. While he isn't absolutely or irredeemably horrible or anything, you do realize he is inferior when compared to both J'zargo and Brelina Marion. In both cases, I would say Onmund is completely outclassed, and while I will go into more detail shortly, you'll find that J'zargo is going to make a much better battle mage, while Brelina ends up being a superior, straightforward mage class. You can get Onmund as a follower upon completing the Onmund's Request side quest mission located at the College of Winterhold. When you compare Onmund with J'zargo, you'll find that Onmund can only max out at level 30, while J'zargo doesn't have a maximum level at all. It's also worth mentioning that since J'zargo can reach a higher level, he is also able to reach level 100 in heavy armor, one-handed, destruction, restoration, and illusion. Otherwise, because J'zargo doesn't have a specific level cap, he ends up being one of the better followers for you to choose out of all of the followers in the game, especially if you intend on playing past level 30. To put it more simply, J'zargo is just going to be a better battle mage follower than Onmund will ever be. A more fair comparison would be with Brelina. While Braylina is more of a mage class, you'll find that she has the exact same amount of health as Onmund when she reaches level 30. And while Braylina isn't as good with destruction magic, she is definitely better with illusion, alteration, and the conjuration schools of magic than Onmund is. Braylina will also occasionally conjure Atronox during battle as well, which can help to draw aggro from enemies. And if you are also a summoner, having an additional summoner may actually be really useful. I guess sort of like Koznak, I suppose it should be mentioned that Onmund isn't entirely awful, but when you start to make comparisons to the other followers that you can get at just the College of Winterhold, it is clear that Onmund does come up pretty short. If you want a good battle mage, just use J'zargo. Number 5, Torvar. So Torvar is a member of the Companions that specializes in one-handed, heavy armor, block, archery, and two-handed. Like the other companions that aren't a part of the inner circle and thus aren't werewolves, Torvar has a maximum level of 25. Torvar can become a follower once you complete the Glory of the Dead quest for the companions. In fact, all of the companions will follow you once you complete this specific quest. Something I will say is that just among the companion followers in particular is that there is a lot of competition for one-handed warriors. While many of these characters have low max levels, you'll ultimately find that some of them provide useful services. Both Najada Stonearm and Athos are valuable skill trainers specializing in block and one-handed respectively, and both of them are expert trainers too, making them incredibly useful for players that want to level up either of these skills. The only other companion follower that's similar to Torvar is Rhea. When you compare Torvar and Rhea, Rhea ultimately has superior stats in heavy armor. So, sort of like Koznak, Torvar is a less specialized version of Rhea, and ultimately he's going to get like more points in two-handed, which really should have been put in one-handed or the heavy armor skill tree. Torvar would be lower on this list if not for two things, which ultimately set him apart from the other companion followers in Skyrim. The first thing is that if Torvar manages to die, you can receive an inheritance from him of 200 gold, and this may be nice if you decide to sacrifice him to Boethia. Also, unlike many of the other companions, Torvar will resist arrest and will fight the Hold Guards if you want him to. At the end of the day, though, I think you're ultimately going to find that these benefits don't outweigh the negatives. Number 4, Agmire and Beliveau. So these two followers are members of Skyrim's Dawnguard faction, and both are almost, if not exactly the same when it comes to their stats. This is because both of these characters are bandit class followers, and both of them also happen to reach a maximum level of 25. The only difference between the two appears to be that Agmire is a male Nord, while Beliveau is a female Wood Elf. Both specialize in one-handed, two-handed, block, and light armor, though Beliveau may be slightly better at archery, while Agmire is probably slightly better with melee weapons. What's frustrating about these two is just how similar they are. Both can only reach a max level of 25, both of them are based on the bandit NPC class, and largely both of them share the same skill specialization. When you start to compare them to the other Dawnguard members, you've got characters like Ingjerd, who specializes in two-handed weapons, Durak, who is more of a ranger class that also specializes in one-handed weapons, and then you have Ceylon, who is more of your typical defense-based one-handed warrior class, sort of like a housecarl. It's also important to mention that all three of these potential followers don't have a specific level cap, where both Agmire and Beliveau do. It's clear that while Bethesda gives you the option to make Agmire and Beliveau your followers, they're clearly not intended for long-term use. Both of these characters are worse than all of the level 25 companion followers you can acquire, and this even includes Torvar, who I just said was kind of lousy. If I guess I had to pick one, I'd recommend Agmire, but even then, neither of them are worth your time and effort, especially when you get the chance to acquire the other three followers that have no level cap and are more specialized anyway. Number 3, Autolasya Vendici. So now we're going to be getting into the entries of various followers that are based on either mining or other civilian-based NPC classes. As you can imagine, and despite some of these followers' appearance, they're not meant for combat at all. And this, of course, means that they may actually be worthless to you. Autolasya, in particular, is labeled in the game as a civilian NPC class, and for this reason, she has specialties and skills that aren't geared for combat. And those are going to be smithing, alchemy, and enchanting. To give you some idea, Autolasya's highest combat skill is one-handed, which reaches 40 at level 25. Keep in mind that Torvar of the Companions has a one-handed skill of 72 at level 25, and he is what I would consider to be one of the lesser of the companion followers. What's so interesting about this follower is that she looks like she might actually be good. When you initially meet Autolasya, she is wearing a set of Imperial armor, and this is sort of funny considering her heavy armor skill is only 20 at level 25, while her light armor skill is 35 at level 25. Regardless, it's apparent that Autolasya is bad no matter what kind of armor you use. It's worth mentioning that Aronder isn't especially great, and he is even more competent than Autolasya when it comes to her own specialties. I suppose to be fair though, Aronder is capable of reaching a higher max level. What's interesting too is that Autolasya doesn't have a single skill that is above level 60 when she reaches level 25. Many of the other level 25 followers do have at least one, and in some cases even 2 or 3. Ultimately, this is really a follower you're going to want to avoid. While you may want to do the side quest to make her available as a follower, I definitely don't think you'll want to actually use Autolasya as a follower. Number 2, Wragge Not Beard. So if you thought Autolasya Vendici was bad, Wragge Not Beard is definitely worse. While Autolasya has a level cap that is more in line with the other followers in the sense that she maxes out at level 25, Wragge ends up with a level cap of just level 20. For this reason, you're not just getting inferior maximum health to the other followers available in Skyrim, but you're also getting overall inferior stats to the other followers in Skyrim. Wragge will never have a skill that exceeds level 50, and to make matters even worse, just like Autolasya Vendici, Wragge has an NPC class of Miner, meaning that he's not oriented for combat. His highest combat-related skill is two-handed that makes out at just level 42. However, his light armor skill is 28, and his specialty skills are in smithing, alchemy, and enchanting, but they never exceed 50. Wragge is found in Kinsgrove, and upon completing his own side quest called Find Wragge Notbeard's Ancestral Shield, you can gain him as a follower, and he will also improve your block skill by 1 level. So while he may be a relatively lousy follower, it may be worth it to do this quest in order to boost your character's block skill. I'd recommend that you use any other follower in the game. Housecarls and Mercenaries will still be better than Wragge Notbeard at just level 20, and they max out at level 50 and 40 respectively. And finally, the worst follower in Skyrim, number 1, Sven. So Sven might be the worst follower as well as worst choice for a follower in Skyrim. In my mind, Sven serves as a trap for people that are playing Skyrim for the first time. This is because Sven is acquired depending on how you complete the Love Triangle side quest mission located in Riverwood. Ultimately, you can choose between Sven, who has the same stats as Wragge Notbeard, or you can choose Faendal, who is not only a decent archer with a maximum level cap of 30, but he is also a skill trainer in archery. I guess their question is, would you rather have a fairly awful follower, or would you rather have a follower that's also a skill trainer? The only advantage to gaining Sven as a follower is that you will get an inheritance if he dies. Unfortunately, this is only when you help him win the affections of Camilla Valerius during the Love Triangle quest. So if you actually help Faendal, you don't get the inheritance. As I mentioned earlier, Sven's stats and abilities are identical to Wragge's. The difference is that Sven is a bard NPC class as opposed to a miner NPC class. Maybe if you're not playing as an archer, you could help Sven instead of Feindal, and maybe this way you could sacrifice Sven to Boethia. Otherwise, I think you're going to be much better off siding with Feindal, even if you have a passing interest in archery. Alright guys, that's going to pretty much wrap up this particular video. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, and let me know, who do you think is the worst follower in Skyrim? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see y'all next time.